Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode here on the MIgardener channel. I'm glad you got to make it for this one. I'm really excited. Do not click away. It's gonna be a very fun episode. Not only are we gonna be planting things up, but I think you're gonna learn a lot. All right, so we have our line of 4 trees. This is really going to be just primarily a wind block and as well as kind of a privacy block. So we can't have a very tall fence here because of our ordinances. So these are kind of a natural fence that kind of goes through that loophole. So a good tip for all of you that can't have tall fences or can't have fences at all, trees don't fall into that guideline. So definitely a smart idea, especially because we like our privacy. I think everyone does to some extent. So these are gonna be a nice privacy fence as well as kind of a natural wind block because we get some real strong winds here that will definitely cut that down, make it a little more nice for Geneva and us if we're sitting out on our porch. Now another reason why we did a line and not a block is because it just took up too much space. Blocks are a great way to plant fruit trees, and you can typically plant them closer together if they're in a block because they will actually grow together, and they do much better if you have more than one variety of the same type. So let's say you have a Gala apple and a Fuji apple. If you plant them in a block formation, like two trees and 2 trees, they're going to actually cross-pollinate much better because apples and pears, which are the ones we have in our block formation over behind you that I'll show you, they need a cross. They actually need another variety to cross well. So by planting them in a block formation, not only can we plant them closer together, but they're actually going to benefit from each other by having those varieties closer. Now, what I will say is that varieties that are a little less, you don't need as many plants to have a cross, would be your peaches and your cherries. They're very easy to grow. In fact, in most cases, they're actually self-fertile, meaning you don't need a cross whatsoever in order to have fruit. And that's why we chose these to be in our line formation, because they are actually lower to the ground. They are a little more easier to manage. And so we can space them out. They're not gonna grow all together, all crazy. And we left the ones that do grow all crazy and stuff like that into the block formation, so it won't really matter when they all grow together. And then, so we have a cherry down there as well. Now the varieties we chose, this peach tree right here, this is an Alberta peach. These grow, these are zone hardy until zone 4, very risky zone 4, and zone 5 very safely. The other peach trees we have 2 here. These are the Red Haven. Now these are our all-time favorite peach. These are a real common one for people to grow in Michigan. The west side of Michigan, a lot of people will grow these. The problem is that they are very, very risky to grow here. They grow very, very risky in zone 5, and they prefer zone 6. We are zone 6 here. So it's just depending on the weather. You might have zone 5 weather, you might have zone 6 weather. Reason being is we're so close to the lake that it creates a little microclimate that most of Michigan is zone 5. However, we're close to the lake, so we can grow zone 6. That's why people on the west side and the east side can get away with growing a little more warm tolerating plants. So you have those. And then down here, we actually have a cherry tree. This cherry tree is just a sweet cherry. And the reason why we have just one of those is because it does so well on its own. You do not need another cherry tree. They will say you do. I promise you, you do not need a second cherry tree. Reason being is they will cross-pollinate with many, many, many different varieties of trees in the area. So if you have like some wild cherry or a choke cherry, things like that, they will readily cross-pollinate and they will do very well just on their own because there's so many different things growing that they will cross-pollinate with just naturally. Now here we have our block. As you can see, we have 2 trees and 2 trees. So it's a small block of 4, but they are 2 apples and 2 pears. They're going to grow very well together. Like I said, these are a little more wild. They get to be a little more unmanageable at times, and while we'll still continue to prune them very heavily, inevitably they will grow together and create just kind of this kind of canopy, if you will, of 4 trees that are almost growing to be like one giant tree. And so our method behind our madness is that when they do get to that point, they will at least help each other cross-pollinate And also the fact that they are pretty much in the same family. Apples are very close to pears. So when they grow together, they will not only benefit, but having like a peach growing into an apple would not be the most desirable thing, at least I think. So having apples and pears together are a pretty good combination. And also the fact that because they get quite a bit taller than the peach trees and the cherry trees, we had them over here where, as you can see, my shadow is being cast because the sun sets over in the west over there. And this is actually behind the garden. So if we were to have these tall trees over there, they would actually cast a shadow eventually on the garden, leading to less than desirable results. So by having them here, they can get 30, 40 feet tall like they will if you don't prune them, and they will still cast all their shadow that way, not hurting anything whatsoever. So like I said, we do plan on heavily pruning them, keeping them below 10 feet. But anyone that's ever kept fruit trees knows that that is a bit of wishful thinking, because they eventually do get out of control. They eventually do become quite unmanageable. And so we're thinking, very long-term for not only us, but potentially the future owners of this house that might not know how to prune a tree like we know how to prune a tree. Just the orientation worked out very well. So now, with that out of the way, I did want to show you how we plant our orchard, how we plant our fruit trees. When you take the plant out of its pot, you'll notice that the plant is very root bound, and you can sit here and you can loosen some of these roots up, and I would recommend it, but you can only loosen so many up. They've been growing in this very tight wound pattern for a very long time, and they basically have what you kind of would consider muscle memory. They'll just keep going around in a spiral. They're not going to actually move out from this, from this shape unless you tell them to. And so we can work this up. We can definitely untangle some of these roots. Like I said, though, you can only untangle so many. And what makes the problem worse is when you put them into a hole that's been dug with just a regular shovel, because the regular shovel basically makes that perfect circle again, which is going to simulate a pot. And the pot is already bad enough. You throw it in here, it's going to make the problem even worse, and you'll find the tree won't really grow that much. You'll pull the tree out after it dies, wondering why it died, and you'll find that the roots didn't ever move anywhere, even if your soil is great. So spoking fixes that problem. Basically what you want to do is, once you dig your hole, you're going to notice that it's going to be very circular. And what you want to do is you just want to take the edge of the shovel, and you want to basically like spokes on a wheel or on a rim. You want to go in here and you want to hash this up. And what that's going to do is it's going to actually loosen up that soil and allow for places where roots can go into those spokes, and it's going to allow them to go out into the soil and not keep going around and around in a circle. Another thing you want to do when you transplant is dig your hole about 2 times larger than the root ball itself. So now that we've done that, all we're going to do is simply backfill. Because the soil quality is so good, we're going to simply backfill with the original soil. It's a very common mistake to fertilize right when you plant your fruit tree. The fruit tree is going to do fine. What you want to do is wait till the fruit tree has been established for a couple months and then think about fertilizing, because you want the roots to be enticed to move out. Roots have one job, and that is to keep the plant alive by sourcing nutrients and water. So if you give them nutrients right at their source, and you give them water right at their source, which I would recommend, don't torture your plant to go further, no. So you don't want to feed them, water them, yes, but feeding them would basically only tell them to just stay right there, and the root ball would stay just about the same size, even though the plant would continue growing. And then eventually it would suffer from stress, and it would be very stunted. So you don't want to feed them right away. That's a very, very common mistake that I see people doing. So a lot of times people ask why I don't fertilize. That's exactly why. So we're just going to backfill with this soil here. I was really happy to see how nice and dark it was. Something that I have never seen in any house I've ever lived at before. And so I was very, very pleased to see the good quality soil that was below, because sometimes you never know what you're going to get yourself into. So it was nice and a little sandy, a little loamy. Had some good organic matter actually, which was pretty incredible. And especially since most of the places in this area have very heavy clay. So clay was not actually on this property. I was very surprised by that, or at least where I'm digging these holes, it wasn't. All right, so I've pretty much taken all of the native soil and backfilled that. I'm gonna need some more soil, so I'm gonna go to the compost pile, get some compost to put on top, because what I don't wanna do is I do not wanna use this soil here. I can use some of it, but the soil from this giant dirt clod contains a lot of grass roots, and I don't want grass in here competing with the newly planted tree. I want this to be as weed free as possible, because weeds and grass compete for basically the same things that all your plants do. So it's best to, I'm just gonna throw this in our ditch because we have some low spots, and that's where that's gonna go. All right, so there we go. We are totally planted up. Now we have our compost all around the tree. What you want to do is make sure the compost is about 1 inch or 2 above the native soil. That way when settling occurs, it's going to be right at around soil level. And also what you want to do is make sure there's a slight slope away from the tree. What that's going to do is it's going to make sure that water will move away from the tree. That's going to help in a few things. When it's young, it does not need a lot of water. I mean, it does need water, but it does not need a lot of water near the base. That's going to cause rot. Fruit trees, all fruit trees are very prone to rot. So in order to prevent that rot, we want it to slope away from the tree. Another thing is, once the tree is mature, it's going to actually feed those new roots, and it's going to take water and nutrients down to those roots where they are. And so it's not as important to feed, once the plant is older, it's not as important to feed the right around the immediate base of the tree, but actually out further, because that's going to actually be the roots that are going to take up the most moisture and the most water. So that's that. And then the last thing you want to make sure that you do is prevent girdling. Girdling is a very common problem that people think they're going to, they think mulch looks very, very nice, and they'll put mulch, 3-4 inches up the tree. That is the best way to cause girdling. And what that does is it's basically pressure that's put on the tree trunk itself. And these trunks here won't put down roots. They're not tomatoes, they're not vines. They will basically stay this way here. And they might put down a very, very small amount of support roots, but for the most part, they won't put down any, if any at all. And so what you want to do is make sure that you, like I said, only put it up about 1 inch or 2, because you want that stuff to settle. You don't want to be mulching very high up on the tree, because it's going to choke it off, and it's actually going to cause rot and chewing insects that actually will girdle the tree and cut off nutrients going up to the top. And you'll notice the very first sign you'll notice is that the trunk stays really small at the base but gets thicker, and it just can't support that much tree, and so you'll have a lot of die off. So it's just a big problem, and once it happens, you can't reverse it. You can't ungirdle a tree. So I wish you could, but you can't. So there you go. That's how we plant up our trees. I'm going to go in for some dinner. I'll plant the rest after dinner, but I hope you all enjoyed. I will show you all when it's done. We'll do a quick tour, maybe on Facebook or Instagram Live or something like that. But head on over there. We might do that, and I might just wait till tomorrow as well. It's getting kind of cold, so I don't need to catch another cold. So my nose is running. That's a sign I got to go in and warm up, get some dinner. Cindy made salad. I'm very excited. So anyways, I'll catch you all later. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Make sure to click that like button. It does help us out. Make sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and share this video with a friend. If you think they're going to enjoy this, they most likely will. So share it with them, and I'll definitely appreciate that. So awesome. I'll catch you all later on the next episode. This is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. See you guys.